receive information and to retain information.
Yes,
So what I want to do today is to talk a little bit about some of the foundation for psychology in terms of what's motivating people. And I think I may, if any of you were in some of the previous classes, you may have had some of these, but let me try to go here. Now, let me ask you this. Let me, how do I get this to open? Okay. Now, did we talk a little bit about the stages of development at all?
We did not talk about this. We did. Well, let me see. Well, you have just give us to do our own research and to have an expose, but that didn't happen.
Okay, so this is new material then, right?
No, sir. We have done this already, sir.
Okay, so we've done that. Okay. So let's exit that. But just remember this, right? You may see some of this again. That's why I wanted to be sure.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. For this, we have read this.
Okay, good. So I just want to be sure you have that. Okay, yes. So then let's go with this. Screen sharing. Okay. Now, let me put something up here. Now, this is somewhat kind of reviewing a lot here too, because we're coming down to exam time in a couple of weeks here. So what about this? Do you feel that you are able to handle this? Do you feel comfortable with this material?
With that one?
Yes.
I think we did it last term, but most of the things through that material, I did not really get them.
So you want to review it again?
Yes, sir, sure.
Okay. So again, just try to keep in mind the basic motivation for Freud, what he feels that's driving us, which is the innate forces, which is instinct, basically. And that is where the emphasis is. And so if you read, for example, like in 2 Peter, where he classifies certain human behaviors as animalistic. It says, I think one version says irrational brute. I don't know what the King James says. Let me see what the King James, how the King James refer to that in 2 Peter. I think it's 2 Peter chapter 2. Chapter 2 and verse 12, I think. It says in the New American Standard, though, it says, but these are like unreasonable animals. And I think the King James may say, use a different term for that. And then he says, right?
Yes, sir.
Right, okay. So again, here, Freud is categorizing human behavior in general, the motivation in general, that we are operating from an animal base, etc. So when you look at a lot of, what's happening in our society today, you will see that a lot of, even some of our laws are driven by this basic animal need. So if you look at, say, the gay and lesbian issues, how would you classify that? Why would a man want to have sex with another man? Why is the whole society, the whole community changing? It's because people are going by their feelings. It's not being governed. For example, homosexuality being a practice in the United States didn't happen because the laws came together and decided to do that. It was the people who were practicing that pressure the government to now make it a law. So it is that basic instinct that been driven by the basic instinct in order to do that. So that's kind of what Freud is essentially talking about. So these instinct energizes and direct all human mental, and physical activities. That's important for you to remember. When you talk about Freud, when you talk about psychoanalysis, and those are the choices you have to decide. What's motivating human behavior? Why are people behaving the way they're behaving in the church? What is it about that particular behavior that you want to be able to address? So if you look at, I think it's James chapter 4, and from verse 1, like the first 4 verses of James chapter 4, and it says, what is the source of all this quarreling and fighting? Is it not the lust in you, the desire in you? And the word there is hedonic. There's a club in Jamaica called the hedonist club. There are 2 of them actually, and it comes from this word in James, which means pleasure. So are you aware? Have you heard of those 2 clubs in Jamaica? I think it's in Negril somewhere. I never been there myself, but it's called the hedonist club, and that's the word that's found in James. There are 2 words: epithumos, meaning lust, and the other one is desire, and they both are in that, in James chapter 4. Those 4 verses, those 2 Greek words are there: lust and desire, or pleasure, in that context. And so James is saying that the motivation, the reason you have people fighting each other, killing each other, committing crime, is because of that basic instinct that's driving all of what's happening to that individual. So in essence, Freud isn't new, is it? It's old stuff. He just didn't give the Bible credit for his conversation. So we credit Freud, but actually, if you look at the Bible, you will see that you remember when God regretted he had made man, what he said?
Yes,
in Genesis chapter 6 and verse 5. It says the imagination and thoughts of man is what? Evil continuously, basically. And so Cain killed his brother. Why did Cain kill his brother?
He was being driven by his instinct, his motive.
Right, exactly. Jealousy, wasn't it? That actually caused him to do all of that. So that's kind of basically the instinct that people are talking about: food, water, sexual communication, all of that. People are either driven by, why people steal, why they break into shops, why do they do this? And sometimes in big crowd, for example, if the lights go out in Jamaica and they go out for a long time, what happens? People start breaking into stores, right? And stealing. Why do they do this? Why do some of the things happen in Haiti in terms of the stealing and the robbery and all? Why does that happen around the world? Not just in Haiti, in Jamaica as well. Why people kill each other? What's going on? So it's because of the inability to control one. And I think that's why when we talk a little bit about the neurological piece of the frontal lobe, which we probably, the frontal lobe, that big part of your front brain, it is called the frontal lobe, basically. And that section, which is the largest section of the brain, is responsible for what we call executive function. That's the part of you that makes decision. It is the part of you that practice patience, for example. Instant gratification. You can wait. You won't steal. That part of the brain, it's what makes all of those kinds of decisions. And so what happens is that in say, for example, that part of the brain is developing all the way through adolescence. So an adolescent brain, frontal lobe, isn't as fully developed as a grown individual. That is why young people, adolescents, if you look at their decision making, right, they're not always sound because they are being driven by a part of the brain that is not fully developed. Therefore, their judgments are not always right. You know, they always argue with their parents like if they know everything. And technically, as they get older, they learn, right? Hopefully. And so one of the tragedy about this is when you have an adult based on their biological age, an adult body with an adolescent brain driving it, you have a problem. And you've seen that. You've seen grown men, grown women who are acting like children because their brain isn't fully developed. Their decisions, they're making wrong decisions all the time. And even some of us, even some of you may even recognize that you've made some choices and some decisions that basically wasn't in your best interest. And the problem is, though, do you continue to make the same mistakes again and again and again? And you see that in the church a lot, that people make the same mistakes. No matter what you do, the same mistake, because there's a problem with that frontal lobe. And so that's why it is, you know, people wear helmets for that reason. Because whenever you're falling off a bicycle, what goes down first? This section. And so boxing, for example, that's why a lot of people who box over time, as they get older, they start having a lot of problems in terms of decision making with their brain. And so that's something you need to protect. But that's kind of where you need to be focusing. So the activated instinct, which is need, then produces psychological state of increased tension and excitement, which is wishes. If you look at all the commercials that you see these days, if you see a car, chances are you're going to see a beautiful lady. It's like if you buy the car, you get the lady. You ever notice that? Okay. And go ahead.
We did not hear you well, sir.
I said that in the commercial world, that when you see a car, they always have a beautiful, sexy woman standing next to the car.
Yes.
What are they appealing to? Somehow the brain attaches the sex with the car. So if you get the car, you're supposed to get the woman, but it don't happen. They're trying to feed into a part of you, that side of you. Remember, John says that all that is in the world, remember that? The lust of the eye, pride of life.
Yes, sir.
So that's kind of basically what this is all about. And the important piece here is to understand that this is not new stuff. This is old stuff. And that's what for those of you who are going to be preachers and teachers in the church, you have to be able to have the courage to identify things for what it is, if you're going to change it. You know, it's one thing to preach about, you know, instrumental music, preach about, you know, some of these basic things. But ultimately, these things are really core problems within the church that a lot of church members still have not been able to discipline themselves. You still have people still jealousy and all of those terrible emotions that create problems for people in the local church as well as in the home as well. So why would a husband become very abusive, physically abusive to his wife? Why would a grandfather sexually molest his grandchild? What's going on here? Why are these things happening? Because these are the foundations. That's what has happened. But this is not because Freud created that. This is because that's who we are outside of Christ. So part of your message has to be that it is really important for you to be in Christ Jesus to change that part of your nature. So the man outside of Christ, you expect to operate this way. But once you get into Christ, you expect there has to be a change in the nature itself. A good passage for that would be John chapter 3, where Jesus said to Nicodemus except he be born again, you cannot enter into the kingdom of heaven. What Jesus was simply saying, that the old nature must die. One of the reasons that baptism is important, maybe I should just open this for open discussion. Why do you think baptism is so important, given what we're studying here?
I believe that there are several things that are made through baptism, because baptism is just like a figure of the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. So this is a process that someone should go through so that you can be born again. You can become new, as the text says in 2 Corinthians 5 and verse 17. So,
Exactly.
yes, sir.
That's a perfect connection to this.
Yes, sir.
I want you to emphasize, though, a little more that the process of baptism, there must first be a death, the ending of the old man. You see, so baptism is an identification with the process of Christ, who died and he was buried and he was raised. Once you're raised, you are instilled with a new character. If you notice, 1 Corinthians 15 and verse 45. Can someone read that for me? 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 45.
Yes, sir.
What does it say?
For he must reign till he has put all enemies under his feet.
Okay, how about 47?
45. So,
Yes.
and so it is written, the first man, Adam, became a living being. The last Adam became a life-giving spirit.
Okay, so you see the difference? There's two races of people. There is the first Adamic race, and there is the second Adamic race. The difference between the first Adamic people and the second one is life. See, the old man died, and now in Christ you have life. And that's basically what's important. So there are two groups of people. There are those who are still in their old nature, their old corrupt nature that happened when Adam violated God's law in the Garden of Eden. However, when Christ came, as a result of the transaction that happens, the person becomes a new creature, as someone mentioned a while ago in 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 17. So here you see the transformation that happens. So what you are preparing yourself for is to be a broker of life, to be in the business of assisting people to move from life, from death, a status of death, to a status of life. That is your goal. Your goal is not just about preaching. Your goal is to facilitate or create an environment where the old characters can die and you have the new one. That's an awesome task and an awesome responsibility that is laid upon each of us to go and do that. So it's not just about being able to memorize and preach a good sermon and excite people. And no, it's about the transformation of life. I think in Colossians 1 and verse 13, it says you've been delivered. Remember that verse? You've been delivered from the power of darkness, meaning that the old life, follow? And you've been translated into this new place where you're no longer being driven by your instincts. you're more disciplined. You may be hungry, but you're not going to steal. You may be angry, but you're not going to kill. You may even have sexual drives, but you're not going to go and rape. You're not going to be unfaithful to your wife. You're going to discipline your desires because you emerged into a whole different person. And so that's kind of how we ought to really understand this whole process of being driven and motivated by these needs. So according to Freud, the basic objective of all human behavior is to achieve pleasure and avoid unpleasant pain, which is called the pleasure principle. Try to remember that phrase because you will see it again, the pleasure principle. So if you see a question, what is the pleasure principle? I want you to explain that it is the wanting to avoid pain and to be happy. Why do people use drugs?
To feel in another world.
To feel better, to feel happy. Why do they drink alcohol? Why do people smoke cigarettes?
Sometimes to forget painful things.
Exactly. Even sometimes caffeine. People drink a lot of coffee. It's to do something, isn't it? You feel down. You want to feel up. You want to have more energy. You want to, So we do a lot of stuff in order to feel better. For example, in Jamaica, the dance hall music. What do you think the dance hall music is about?
Sorry, sir?
The dance hall music in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm. What about it, sir?
What do you think about it?
Well, people are looking for pleasure.
Exactly. Do you know what the dance hall music is? When I say that, what I mean by that?
Yes, sir. I know what it is.
I don't know, sir.
You know what it means, right? You don't know? Okay, listen. Alexa, play dance hall music.
Playing dance hall music on Amazon Music.
Come on. It's not finding it. Alexa, play dance hall music.
Playing dance hall music on Amazon Music.
Can't find it, I guess. Okay, but that's kind of what it is. It's a music that's really, it's designed to bring out that aspect in us. And that's why it sells, it makes a lot of money, but it's all about people trying to, even with drugs, with pills, people take pills to avoid pain. And kind of that's part of even marijuana. Why do people want to smoke marijuana? Pot, whatever, why do they do this?
Forget pain, sir.
Exactly, to avoid that. So please remember all of that. So let me move on here. So one of the things that I want you to remember that Freud over time changed his theory a little bit. And so he moved from a drive to what we call a structural theory. And in the structural theory, you need to remember that you have the id. Let me see if I can highlight it for you. How do I highlight it? Okay, you have the ego, right?
Yes, sir.
Let me highlight this here. You have the ego, and then you have the id, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me highlight it. And where is the super ego? I don't see the super ego, but the super ego is supposed to be there somewhere. But as someone, I might have skipped, I might have missed that out. But the super ego is supposed to be there because there's three. There's the id, there is the ego, and there's the super ego. And so this super ego is like the religion, the rules of society,
Yes.
right? And the ego is you have to make the choice as to which one in the id. So you have, so Freud developed those three things, which is called the structural theory. And so he's credited for that. And
Sir,
yes.
as we would have seen, it is also an issue with relationship, how the person has been raised by his parents.
Yes, exactly. And because Freud says that our personality is developed in the first 6 years. You remember in Proverbs 22 and verse 6, it says, raise a child, train a child in the way he should go, so that when he's older, he will not depart from it. So that's a very good observation there, that a lot of the problems that you're seeing in the local congregation are problems that's coming from their childhood.
Yes, sir.
And so you as a preacher or leader within the church has to develop programs to be able to meet those problems. The problem is, when we are developing Bible class, we don't necessarily think about these things. We just say, who's going to teach what? What shall we study this? Let's study Ephesians. Let's study Philippians. Oh, let's study Revelation. But the point is, there need to be some thinking about what kinds of behaviors that you're witnessing in the congregation that you want to help folks to, first of all, to bring it to light, and then to develop an intervention using the Word of God. So when you're developing, you need to sit and say, what do we need right now? What's the problem? What's going on with maybe it's young people, and maybe, you know, there's a sexual issue that's going on. Maybe it's a drug issue that's going on. Maybe it's about people not attending the worship service. Maybe it's a problem with people not giving like they should be giving. So you develop material around the problems. And then you can measure at the end of the 3 month, whatever, how long you're going to teach that, at the end of it, you can say, look, you know what, the contribution went up, or you know what, people are attending church regularly, or you know what, husbands are treating their wives better, you know, whatever those things are. Or maybe folks are actually doing more evangelism, and folks are actually going out and teaching. You have to begin to identify what the problems are and develop teaching materials to be able to do the correction. It's not just about giving a sermon on Sunday. You know, 25-minute sermon on Sunday really can't change what we're talking about. It has to be a holistic approach in terms of understanding that. So Freud believed in psychic determinism. What do I mean by that? Psychic determinism. That phrase, what does that mean?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Before you get there, I wanted you to just explain to me a little about the conscious, unconscious, and preconscious mind, which was in the slide before this one, but you did not talk about it.
Okay, the conscious mind. The conscious mind is, you're talking to me tonight, right now, and you're thinking about what to say to me. It's within your ability. The conscious mind would be when the unconscious mind would be when you're sleeping and all of a sudden you have these dreams. You know, you're not in control of that. So for example, post-traumatic, I'm going to write this right here. It's not part of the text, but I need to find a place to write it. Post-traumatic stress disorder. You've heard of that term before?
Yes, sir, I have.
Okay, post-traumatic stress disorder is, say for example, a soldier who, you know, were in a war and he witnessed a lot of horrific deaths. Now he comes back to civilian life. He goes to sleep and he's having flashbacks, and to the point where he can't function anymore. Or it may be a situation where a child may have witnessed the death of a parent, tragic death of a parent. And then they're being flooded by these memories. The memories come back against their will. That is the subconscious. In other words, there are things that has happened to you as a child that sometimes when you're sleeping will come back. And sometimes you wake up in sweat, trembling, and don't know why. But because once the brain goes into this deep sleep, sometimes a lot of the material comes back. So that's the subconscious. What we try to do in therapy, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. As you are talking about that, one of the biggest issues that the new soldiers, for example, in the US Army, that they have is after seeing people killing others or after killing someone, the biggest issue is that post-traumatic situation. Because
yes, exactly.
they take
Exactly.
themselves.
Yeah. And so in the United States, post-traumatic disorder is a disability now, where
Yes.
the government will give you money and a monthly check. So a lot of soldiers are getting the monthly check as a result of this disorder.
Yes,
So,
sir.
but that's important. But understand though, you can develop this without going in the military. If you live in a very crime-infested area where people are shooting and killing people, and people are laying on the street, dead, it can have tremendous impact on children later on in life, where they start having those flashbacks. And so part of what therapy is, in Freudian's way of thinking, that's why you have the couch. People lay on the couch and they begin to talk. And as they talk, the more they talk, things start coming out from the subconscious. And so that's part of the process of healing. Sometimes people may be arguing in the church and they may not like the preacher, but really there's something that's going on, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And it might be that his son was not asked to be at the Lord's table and somebody else is, but she's not going to say that to you, will it? She's going to be arguing about something else. And so as a minister, you've got to begin to really ask people, what is it really is going on? What is it that's really troubling you? Why do people get anxious? What is anxiety about? Anxiety is a state of being in panic, right? The problem is they don't know what they panic about because it's something in the subconscious that's being triggered by something that they're not even aware of. And so that's what anxiety is. It's a state of being in panic, basically. And that is one of the most popular psychiatric disorders these days, especially with the COVID. What's going on? People are anxious. And as a result of that, people have less patience and people are, hiding, and it's a compulsive disorder. So you're seeing a lot of weaknesses that's happening right now, okay? So in his view, that is Freud, nothing occur by chance. That's basically what psychic determinism is. In other words, if it's like saying, if your wife is coming home late every night, there might be something going on. You understand? People reason that way, don't they?
So
And I said, if in some marriages, if the wife is coming home late every night, the husband is start thinking what?
there's a reason behind that.
There you go. And that's the whole point. There's a reason. And so he may get in his car and start spying on her, right?
Yes, sir.
Start checking her phone to see what's going on, right? So that's the psychic determinism. In other words, if you see this, there's something behind it. There's something driving it. If all of a sudden a person stop coming to church, who used to always come faithfully, and all of a sudden they're not showing up, you know what? There's something going on driving that behavior.
Yes, sir. And so, sir,
Yes.
as we are talking about that, sir, let me use this example based on the psychic determinism, sir. Why do well, basically, when I'm watching a TV show or a movie, why does my brain or why do I select this as something entertaining, sir? Why that, sir?
Why do you select that particular movie?
Yes, sir, as entertainment, sir. Why do I like it, sir?
Because remember what we said, that it is touching something that you need. Maybe you need to laugh. Maybe you need to feel good. Now, here's the problem, though. Some people like to watch really horrifying movies. You know what I mean? Like the vampire movies and stuff.
Yes, sir.
Some people like to watch the one with the guns and shootings and stuff like that. It is because you would like to be that person. There is a secret going on inside of you, where if the actor who's killing everybody, right? You are wishing that you can do that. You're wishing that you be that person. You follow? I mean, that's just,
Yes, sir.
but that's a fantasy, right? It's a fantasy. We all have fantasies. And those fantasies get played out in what we watch, what we see, what we listen to. You know, why is it that most of the movies, they always select beautiful, attractive women to play the role? Why? You ever notice all the male stars are always handsome guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Why
sir.
do you think? Why do you think that is? Because the women are going to do what? Why everybody love Denzel Washington? Because he's sexy. See, politicians that are ugly and overweight don't get much people voting for them. Michael Manley, well, you're too young to know Michael Manley in Jamaica. Michael Manley was the most popular politician. He was light-skinned, handsome, and very charismatic. And he was extremely popular. So it's about the images we all want to be. And we have our own fantasies that we have. Some of you may even have listened to certain preachers that you would wish you could be like that particular preacher.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So we all have fantasies. And then someone asked a while ago about the subconscious. Remember that? That's a good example of the subconscious, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Sir,
Yes.
you did not say much about the pre-conscious.
About the what?
Pre-conscious.
The conscious, right?
Yes.
No, sir.
Pre-conscious.
Oh, the pre-conscious. The pre-conscious is saying that really what it is before all of this. Remember when you come into the world, right? As a baby, it's a blank slate, blank. And parents start loading that stuff up. You follow? Load that stuff up. But what happened over time, there is that material. There's some of it you don't remember, but it's still there. Nobody wants to remember the flogging that they've had and all of the bad stuff. They try to remember all the good stuff. So that's kind of what that is. We come in, that's what, you know, one issue about, are we born sinners? You ever heard that argument?
Yes, sir, we have.
Right. So the question is, you're not born a sinner, right?
Right.
You're blank slate. But then somebody start loading it up after a while. And a lot of stuff that they're loading, some of it are not good. Some of it may be beatings. Some of it may be cursing, you know. Some of it may be incest, you know. Some of it may be good, loving, hugging, all the wonderful thing, and you feel loved and all. But some kids don't feel love and never experience of that. So it's getting loaded up. And so by the time they become an adult, they can become a drug addict, they can become a criminal, they can be, you know, right now I have a young lady who's 18 years old, and she was just sentenced to 30 years in life, 30 years in jail, 30 years. That means she will be out when she is in her 50s. Can you imagine right now where that, as a matter of fact, I had to put her on suicide watch when she got the verdict. She lost the case this week, and now she has to spend 30 years in jail. She's only 18 years old. She committed murder. Okay? So, you know, when that happens, then you realize, you know, when you meet this lady, I won't be around, 50 years from now, when she's released from jail, a whole life It's gone. So we have to end.
Oh, legitimate.
It's chapel time, right?
Almost time, sir.
Yes.
Sir, before we move on,
Yes.
what do you think? Well, what about legitimate defense, sir? For example, if someone breaks into your house and trying to kill you, and then you kill the person first, what about that, sir? Is it
That's okay. Okay, provided you don't shoot them in the back. If you shoot them in the back, it means that they were no longer a threat. They were running away. You go to jail for that. So, but if you shoot them in the front, when they're fit, that's okay.
All right.
You're defending yourself.
Yes, sir. Sir.
Yes.
In terms of, well, the Bible, is it sinful?
The Bible?
Yes, sir. To do
Is it simple?
Yes, sir. Legitimate defense. Is it something sinful for a Christian?
I see what you're saying. Is it sinful for a person to defend themselves?
Yes, sir.
what a question. Personally, if you're going to kill me and I can't run from you and I can't get away from you, I have to take you down. So that's self-defense. I don't think that's sinful at all.
Yes.
Now, someone may argue though, Jesus said to turn your other cheek. So if someone breaks into your home about to kill your wife and your children, someone may say, well, you know what? You're going to go to heaven. What really matters, therefore you should just surrender. So that may be taking it a little too far, I think. You have a right and a responsibility. No one has the right to take your life. So I would have to defend.
All right, all right.
And that's what I will do. But I don't think any of you would sit there and allow your children to be abused. I don't think so. There is something in you instinctively are going to take care of business.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Well, sir.
Yes.
Based on the same line where we are going through, there are some people who say that since we as Christians have God as our protector, why do we need a weapon, like a fire weapon, to use or to protect ourselves? Is it that the protection of God is not enough, or what is happening? And then now I know that there are a lot of that are going through the world where people must be like going on the road and feel like they are safe. All right. Well, I know that sometimes that weapon might be like a master over you if you don't know how to control it. All right. I agree with that. But do you really think, do you agree that a Christian cannot have a weapon, or do you agree that they can still use it, even though they have God as their protector?
I will never have a gun in my home. I will not own one because I know what it's designed for. And the moment I go out and buy one, I'm already making, remember we talk about the conscious and the subconscious? Remember that? When I go and purchase a gun, I've already made in my mind that I'm going to kill someone if they were to come into my home. That decision already made. So I really can't make that decision. That's why I don't own a gun. I can own one, but that's why I would never own a gun, because I'm making a conscious decision that because the gun is designed for that purpose. So I think you're correct. We have to rely on God to get us through. But if I wake up in the middle of the night and someone is in my home, believe me, if I can't run, I'm going to do whatever. I grab a pot, a pan, whatever I grab, I'm going to try to defend myself.
Well,
yes.
Now, without that one, it will be difficult because these people, they are mostly gunmen, and so even though you have something to throw at them, or I don't know, you will not have this.
Well, let me let me tell you something. Once I was preaching at Mona Heights, right where you are in this building, if you were there.
All right.
And there was a brother with a gun. Okay. And he wanted to preach that Sunday. And I was assigned to preach that Sunday. And he pulled his jacket back. And his gun was sticking right in his hip, right? Okay. So, I mean, I am not going to tell you what I did. But I was in the parking lot in Mona. Okay. And that in those days, it was a big parking lot. So I know about that. So, but I don't think it's right. I don't think you should pack a gun and bring to church. I think it's inappropriate. Yes.
What do you think about that? Because you have said that the gun is designed to kill.
To kill. Yes, exactly.
But is it not designed to protect as well?
But tell me, what was that guy protecting that Sunday morning in church at the Mona Heights? Right where you are in that building. What was he protecting?
Sir, I have an illustration as an answer. I don't know if you remember what happened in 2019, December in the United States of America, when someone just entered the church and start firing at
Yes, I remember that.
Yes, sir. And when some other members, they had done and they shoot the guy. So if they did not have that gun, what will happen? Probably the gunman.
More people would have been killed.
Yes, sir.
More people would have been killed. Right. And that is out that, but see, there are certain circumstances that I can't dictate on. And that's for God to decide those final things. I don't have the answer to all of those. But I do believe, though, that coming to worship service, packing a gun is highly inappropriate. That's my feeling about that.
Yes, sir. I agree with that. But I'm just thinking about there are some copsmen that are Christian. So like obligatory, they must, or necessary, they must have a gun. And so that gun, they
no, that's different. That's different though. That's different if you are a law enforcement officer. That's a different scenario. You know, that's your job. That's what you do. I'm talking about you and I regularly packing a gun, going to church. I think it's inappropriate. And that shouldn't be at all, especially if it's the minister packing a gun. Okay. In the case of this guy, because he wanted to preach that Sunday, and they had decided that I would be doing the preaching and not him. So, you know, it was a.
Well, I think this can distract the person. When you have a gun and your mind will be constantly, well, let me not say constantly, but you will have a part of your brain that will be focused on that gun.
Exactly. And for me, I was terrified. It was difficult for me to stay focused, knowing that someone has a gun and kind of threatening you because you shouldn't be going up. I mean, it takes a lot. And I was young then too, see, not like now. So you can imagine a young man trying to, you know, so for me, I had to get out of that situation. So, but anyway, I think we've gone past the other class, don't we?
Yes, sir. Yes, we did.
Okay. So see you guys next time.
But with this material, sir, will you send it to us as well, sir?
Let me see, how can I get it to you now?
Okay, sir.
You know what? One of you, once you finish, send me an email and I'll just revert it back to you guys.
Before you go, let me just email you right now, sir. If this is okay for you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. But as you are waiting on the email, sir, one last thing.
Yes.
What about when someone is under pressure? What psychologically, sir, what is the name of that situation? For example, if I have a gun, I may not want to use it as a murderer will use it. But while I'm under pressure, I can just kill people with it. So psychologically, I know that it is not something, is it something we do consciously, or what is it danger? Exactly.
I think that's we can act, unconscious. For example, let me give you an example.
Yes, sir.
I used to preach at Harborview. We had a congregation there, and I used to be the minister there.
Yes, sir.
And I used to pick up everybody to take to church. And we had the car, it was packed. We had 3 people in the front. I couldn't even shift the gear, basically, because the other person had to shift the gear for me while I matched the clutch. And we almost had an accident. And one of the brother in the back, he was so scared, he started cursing. The F word, okay?
Yes, sir.
He was cursing, okay? And so once we survived, the car didn't overturn, we survived. We went to, not a person said, we all were dead silent. The whole trip, nobody said a single word, but we all were thinking of what? What that man had said, okay? And he is a holy man, he's righteous, he criticized everybody. So he was acting out of what? His subconscious.
Right.
That means in his former life, this is a man who used to cuss before he became a Christian. So what happened? So something tells me though, when he's not at church, he's probably still cursed. You know that, right?
Yes, sir.
He's still cursed because somehow we don't really address human personality when we start talking about change. And do you know, not one of us confronted him on that issue. We just said, we were too ashamed to even bring it up with him, okay? Because we knew that was coming out of his subconscious. And he saw his life flash before him at that particular point. And everything came out, basically.
So, sir.
Yeah.
So, sir.
Yes.
The subconscious, when we do certain things that we used to do under pressure, when we do them under pressure.
It'll come out.
Okay.
You have to be very careful. If you're a kind of person, sometimes people curse silently. Think about this. We curse silently. All right?
Okay, sir.
Have you ever caught yourself saying words that you silently, right?
Yes, sir. Right.
So if someone were to surprise you and shock you, you follow, come up behind you, and all of a sudden shout at you, you follow?
Yes, sir.
That word may come out, or you may swing at them. You follow?
Right.
That is why I say to people at church, don't ever go up and behind someone and tap them on the shoulder, because you don't know.
Right.
Someone who has been abused as a child, you go up behind them and do that, they may come around swinging at you and apologize later. So I always let them know I'm behind them.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And don't touch, don't do this. Because if a person don't see, they may not hit you with a fist, but they may hit you with the elbow real fast, just come back really fast and shake you off like that. And then you get offended.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Sir, when this happened, why people don't just bless the other person instead of cursing?
because usually you're taken back, you're shot. You follow? Both of you are taken off balance at that particular point. So it's a very uncomfortable space to be in, really. Very uncomfortable space to be in.
And what it shows to me this morning is that the innate forces, let me take the example, as a Christians, we try to follow, okay, let me go with the ego. The ego normally selects the super ego when we are conscious of what we are doing. But under pressure, it will be the id which will occur and control us. Am I right?
For example, when you are on a date with a woman that you really love, right?
Yes, sir.
And you start kissing, see, it can go a little too far.
Right.
You follow? That's the id, right?
Yes,
you
sir.
follow?
Yes,
but the super ego will come in when you start feeling guilty after the fact.
Yes.
You follow?
Yes, sir.
The super ego kicks in after the fact. But the ego, though, the ego is the one that's going to say, you know what? Let's go. Let's get out of here quickly. You follow?
Yes, sir.
So that's kind of where the situation is going to come, basically. Now, some of us may call the ego the Holy Spirit or the Word of God, speaking to us, saying, you know what? Let's just back up. This is a dark area. Something will let's go. Let's leave now. You understand? So you have those three things are playing. One can result in a lot of shame and guilt. One can be a lot of excitement. You know what I mean? You're kissing the lady and then you go all the way, right? Excitement, it's happening. And then after all of that, then you have the shame that's happening on the other side of this, you know? And especially if the girl got pregnant and then she calls you up 3 months later and says she's pregnant, then your whole life begins to what? Your whole life is coming apart at that particular point.
Right.
So now you get depressed.
Yes, sir.
You're anxious. You can't do your schoolwork. You don't want to get about the bed. You wish this day had never happened.
Exactly. That's right.
So that's how it kind of, how it works, really.
Okay, sir. I sent the email to you, sir.
Huh?
I sent the email to you, sir.
Okay, good. Let me ask you, how many students present today?
Yes, sir.
All three present?
No, sir.
No, sir. 2 of us.
What happened to the other student?
I don't know, sir. He didn't say anything.
Okay, so who do we have today?
We have Wood.
Wood
And Solon.
Yes, sir.
and Solon. So the other student, what's his name?
Richard Roy.
So he's missing altogether, right? Does he miss all the other classes or just this one?
Well, this is the first class for today, so.
But I mean, does he miss did he miss last week or?
He missed probably Tuesday, I guess, but he had an appointment with her daughter to a doctor. But now I don't know what is the thing now.
Okay. All right, because I don't keep good record of attendance, so I have no really clue, because I don't get to see people, you know what I mean? So I don't know what's going on. So I'm just counting on you guys to keep good records of, attendance and stuff like that, because attendance do work out to like 10% of your grades anyway.
Yes, sir.
So, right. And so what I'm going to do is your participation, I would use for like the other 20% of the grades, participation, and then the final exam would be, the maybe 70% of the grade.
Okay, sir. All right.
So that's how we kind of work it out that way, right?
Okay.
But basically, all of you seem to be doing very well. With what about the other classes? Or any of you kind of not doing so well in the other classes?
This is how we are, sir, in other classes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
We participate on all of them, sir.
Okay. All right. So just because I don't want to be if on the other classes you're struggling, then it kind of like because I tend to be kind of more lenient and the grading, so that everybody kind of get a good grade. But I'm hoping that you guys are applying yourself, and especially in this particular class, because a lot of preachers don't get this kind of material, get this kind of class. So it really enhances your preaching, enhances your person. As a matter of fact, it helps you to understand yourself a little better, and so it enrich your life in a lot of ways. So that's really what I think about that. Because when I was in the school of preaching there, I wish I had this, and I didn't. I think it would have helped me out a lot better, in terms of my career and my effectiveness. But unfortunately,
this is one of the reasons why I didn't really like the fact that we have missed so many classes for this term.
Yeah, I understand that, and it was quite unfortunate that we do. But that's why I'm saying to you, I'll try to make it up as we go with some of, that's why I'm reviewing some of this stuff. Because I know
Alright.
there's been a lot of gaps, in between.
Yes.
So we'll try to do that. And so,
Yes.
okay, guys.
Yes.
So what happened? There's one person for the next class, right?
Yes,
Yes,
only
sir.
one.
Only one.
And is that person there now?
No, sir. I think you have to disconnect and
Yes.
and
And-
yeah.
Okay, so let me do that. And then, okay, guys. So I gotta figure out how to disconnect
Sir,
this.
please remember,
The email, you send me the email. All right.
yes, sir.
Okay, no problem. I got you.